Well, that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
And it's not just propagating the mind virus, but suppressing any opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, in order for the
These are grown adults. One of them is the fucking richest man in the world. The other has the world's most popular podcast. They're having a real conversation. You just said that sentence out loud. And that's because of the woke mind virus. That's what you're saying, man. Is that like the woke mind virus? It's propagated in such a way that like it's insidious and it's causing homelessness. Like it actually causes people to be homeless if they're for CRT. That's what's happening here.
Appearing on the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday, Elon Musk gave us a succinct answer as to why it is he bought Twitter. The woke mind virus is destroying civilization. And he breaks it down.
And his goddamn bank account, he's erased like, what, $25 billion of value in a year or 2 years?
Rather simply, look at San Francisco and the horrors, human waste all over the streets, crime running rampant, real estate market is out of whack. The city seems to be falling apart. What Elon says is the ideology that destroyed San Francisco normally would be rather niche and isolated geographically in the city. But it was given an information technology weapon, which it then used to spread the virus throughout the world. Now,
So, by the way, I've looked this up before in terms of which U.S. states and cities are experiencing high levels of poverty, high levels of unemployment, high levels of illiteracy, high levels of, child death, all that kind of stuff. They are almost exclusively, and in fact, they are exclusively in Republican red states, in Republican cities. That should be telling you a lot about where the woke mind virus has not reached, an area. The woke mind virus has not affected parts of the United States. The woke mind virus has not corrupted people. It hasn't gayified them, with the fucking secret gay signal that is being broadcast to you live right now. Do you feel yourself becoming more gay? It's happening in real time. This whole thing is clown shoes. It's fucking clown shoes of the highest fucking order. And it's like, it's so nuts that like a very large percentage of the population in both the US and Canada buys into this fucking nonsense. This shit is cartoons. Like, honestly, it's the kind of stuff you'd hear some evil fucking villain in Adventure Time start saying that was going to corrupt the world and he has to be defeated. Like, it's honestly, it's the most bizarre fucking thing in the world to have people listen and take in as an actual legitimate thing that affects their lives, to the point so that they pass policy. Like that there are politicians who say that they are winning the war on woke. The fucking Ron DeSantis. It's one of his campaign promises. Is that going to feed your kids? Is that going to put food on the table? Is that going to help you with your bills? Is that going to keep the lights on? Is that going to help you with your medical bills? Any of that? Well, we banned some terms. All right, we're banning CRT in schools, so white kids won't learn that CRT teaches you that time is racist and white babies are racist. We can't have white children exposed to that because that is what we think it is, and it's definitely that. That's exactly what CRT teaches. So we banned it. We banned it from high school. And a lot of you are saying that this costs, a lot of money, both to have politicians in office, passing laws for you. And at the end of the day, this entire thing probably costs you, the taxpayers, quite a bit in us to do this. And in return, you get virtually nothing because CRT was not being taught in high school. It's not that this is a law course that's not even taught to first year law students. But you accomplished performative politics, like, don't get me wrong, liberals do performative politics too. They do so, and you're seeing it right now happening in Israel and Gaza. When politicians are like, oh, we would like the rules of war to be followed. We certainly are concerned about Palestinian lives lost, and then maybe we could have a temporary pause on all of the children getting crushed under all the rubble, right? So we pause that temporarily. We let a couple first aid trucks in, and then we feel nice and warm and fuzzy about ourselves because we did an activism. So we give ourselves a little pat on the back and then enjoy the rest of our day, kind of shit, right? But yeah, this like Republicans like are actually just giving you nothing, and they're spending and or platforming and or propagating so much that this is something you need to worry about. This is truly what is going to destroy society, the woke mind virus. Yeah.
It's not just Twitter. And I commend Elon Musk for buying the platform, trying to fix it. And I think he's working very hard to do so. But it's also a bunch of other platforms. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's TikTok. It is social media in general. Now, if you take a look at San Francisco, you can see how the ideas of San Francisco, which don't work, are seeping out into various parts of this country and other parts of the world and destroying these cities. I mean, seriously, look at crime. Look at the smash and grabs. It's crazy. But if a tool of a city is, I should say, an ideology of a city is given a tool, then the ideology of that city spreads rapidly, then we need to look at other social media platforms and where they're headquartered, notably TikTok. Because the big story now, as we see these crazy videos of pro-Hamas protesters, I am not saying pro-Palestine, I'm drawing a distinction.
You drew a distinction, but you didn't apply it. You can say a thing out loud, right? You can be like, so I'm going to do something, and then you're not doing that because the overwhelming majority of the protests have been for Palestinian liberation. They have not been for supporting Hamas. You know, I've been to the protests. They're not chanting Hamas is glorious, glory be to Hamas, you know, blah, blah, blah. None of that shit. They're chanting free Palestine.
Pro-Hamas protesters. You wonder where they're getting their ideas from. I'll tell you. TikTok. No, we have the data. It's a fact. It's TikTok. Now, there are pro-Palestine protesters that are concerned about civilian deaths. I can respect that. But I got to tell you, in the United States, pro-Palestine protesters are attacking Jewish people, not Israelis. No. Now, there are certainly clashes between pro-Israel and pro-Palestine protesters that we know about. No. Quite literally. There are people that are pro-Palestine harassing and attacking people who are simply Jewish. Notably at Cooper Union, where Jewish students, Americans, not Israelis, were locked in a library. And the report is they were told they could hide in the attic. I kind of don't believe that one.
That's interesting, too, because what you just said out loud, parts of the story aren't accurate. They were not locked. That's already been confirmed. And by the way, yes, I absolutely condemn if there's anybody who's specifically going after Jewish people for being Jewish. That's, yeah, deeply, deeply racist and horrifying. And those are fucking full-on bigots. You might want to look towards your own here, Tim, because, you know, when we turn on a whole bunch of stuff to watch, we cover a lot of fucking media in this, there's a plethora of anti-Semitism that spews like fucking bile from all of the people that you have on your show on a regular basis, on a rotating basis.
Because I'm not sure Cooper Union has an attic that is easily accessible in this way, but you get the point of the propaganda. Now, perhaps they were told they could hide in the attic. I don't know. It seems a little on the nose, if you ask me. They were already locked in a library as far leftists were screaming and banging on the door, free Palestine. And the question I'd ask all of you, and look, I get it. There's concerns.
As of 2022, the U.S. states with the highest rates of poverty, low access to healthcare, stuff like that. Number 1, Louisiana. Number 2, Mississippi. Number 3, New Mexico. Number 4, West Virginia. Number 5, Kentucky. Number 6, Arkansas. Number 7, Alabama. Number 8, Oklahoma. Number 9, South Carolina. Number 10, Texas. States where I would argue the woke mind virus has not reached them yet. Yeah, they haven't been reached by that. So it seems like something else is going on.
Over Israel's retaliation, the bombing of a refugee camp, you're not going to get any defense of that from me. Israel should not have done it. But now we're seeing this conflict become a component, or probably always was, in the culture war, which is leading, I think, a great example.
We don't measure the success of a state simply by healthcare. No, I don't. But like, there are certain things that you would probably want to see very high levels of, right? Access to healthcare, access to affordable healthcare, because that can also directly impact things like child mortality, for example. Feeding programs for school children, having access to things like that, right? There's a lot of measures. And then just raw poverty itself. Well, I mean, if you're going to look at that, I think California still ranks as one of the states that, you know, per amount of people, there's the most amount of people who are homeless or stuff like that, right? Because they do have very very large homeless populations in much more populated areas of the United States. So if you were just looking at raw numbers, where it's just like, hey, what is it? But if you're looking at per capita and you start looking and combining a lot of these factors, I mean, arguably, you start to look at a lot of red states. Those red states are also heavily dependent sometimes on federal funding programs as well. And it's that the woke mind virus is not reaching, because this is what they're talking about. They're spreading this idea that it's destroying civilization. The outcome is very clear if you walk on the streets of downtown San Francisco. They're referencing homeless people, homelessness, that somehow is because racism bad, and saying racism bad, it is the woke mind virus infecting you, and it's cancel culture, and comedians want to be able to say the N-word again and all this kind of stuff. So why can't we do that anymore, right? Texas got voted the worst state to live and work. Oh my. Texas tops the list of worst places to live and work in America. Texas has received the #1 spot of a not-so-pleasant list, the top 10 worst places in America to live and work in 2023. While Texas landed the same number on 6 of CNBC's yearly top states for business study, the state scores significantly low in one category: life, health, and inclusion. Factors in this category include crime rates, environmental quality, healthcare, quality and availability of childcare, inclusiveness in state laws and reproductive rights, protections against discrimination, and voting rights. Texas received 53 out of 350 points for its 2023 life, health, and inclusion score, giving it an F in the top state grade for the lowest nationwide, securing its #1 spot on the list. Texas's low rankings in its life, health, and inclusion scores attributed to a lack of inclusiveness, according to CNBC. Well, this is the woke mind virus. It's already been infecting here. Oh no, this is no woke mind virus. Oh wait, that's right. Considering factors such as laws targeting the LGBTQ+ population, voting rights, and strict abortion bans implemented statewide. Another weakness identified in the study as worker protections. Another reason behind the ranking is the state's current healthcare infrastructure, with the nation's highest percentage of people without health insurance and the second lowest number of primary care physicians per capita, according to CNBC. Texas also ranks 13th in the nation for having high violent crime rates. And then here they are once again. Florida? But I thought Ron DeSantis destroyed wokeness. Thought Ron DeSantis got rid of the woke mind virus once and for all.
Of what Elon Musk is talking about. And this could be an escalation into greater regional conflict, civil conflict in the United States, and hopefully not, but slim chance World War III. Everyone, World War III is like a buzz phrase or whatever, but with the escalations we're seeing in Israel, U.S. boots on the ground, we should consider the possibility of why we do not want to expand war.
I guess, yeah, war bad. Good job. You're hitting the bare minimum there. Also, if it's not a civil war is coming, it's World War III is coming. One of the two. Both, I think, in part due to the prepper buckets that he wants to sell you, but also because that's just always been his thing. That's kind of it. It's both. He wears a beanie and he talks about how the U.S. is about to experience a civil war. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there are people who are much more astute when it comes to observing this kind of stuff, who have seen that there are a lot of warning signs. And even the Canadian equivalent of the CIA, it's called CSIS here, has issued warnings of potential, escalations of violence between multiple groups in the United States, and how that could pose a threat or an imminent threat to Canada. So it's not as if other people aren't deserving it, but it's one of those things where if you say it forever, right, and whenever something happens, and you say a lot of things, by the way, Alex Jones is notorious for this. He just like vomits on a dartboard, and then whatever like food specs turn out to be true, he then picks those out and then eats them, and then that's the ones that everyone is going to they regurgitate those. Obviously, those, when you hear those memes, Alex Jones is right, or Alex Jones was right. Sure, he speaks on the internet for a living. You could do the same thing with me. If I speak for 3 hours, in that course of 3 hours, there could be a prediction that comes true, and then I'll pat myself in the back. I'll have confirmation bias. I'll be like, hell yeah. But I'm not here saying that like I'm a fucking Nostralansis. I joke about that. It's a meme. But like, it's more that there's a lot of fucking recognizable patterns amongst a lot of these people, especially people who fucking do this for a living.
Let me first show you what Elon Musk said. And then I want to show you some examples of the far left cult and how they operate.
Okay.
We've got a video of a dude interviewing a pro-Palestinian activist. And the far left cultists come over and say, no interviews, no interviews. I love how they say that Donald Trump supporters are in a cult when Trump gets booed by his own rallies when he talks about the vaccine. And if you walk up to any Trump supporter and say, let's talk, they'll say, fine. Whereas on the left,
That's not true. Watch any of the fucking people who do on the street style skits like Walter Masterson and stuff. There's fuck tons of people who are like, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Yeah, get out of here. No, he's an enemy. He's pretending to be one of us. Get him the fuck out of here.
They are terrified to criticize the establishment I should say the established powers of the leftists, not the corporate establishment, neocon, neolib. And they don't give interviews. Nope, it's got to go through their hierarchy. That's right. Here's a story. From the Post-Millennial. They report in the latest episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, I'm muted. Fuck. I was doing so well. I've gone a couple weeks, haven't I? Or at least a couple days. There's got to be more. Like, come on. I need my snaps now. I feel like Piers Morgan here, you know? Come on, chats. I haven't muted in a long time, you know? It's all right, isn't it?
Elon Musk
Do you have
decried the
Kajabo
current state of
snaps?
San Francisco and
Snaps
civilization at
validation.
large, pinning
Damn.
the blame on the mind virus being spread far and wide by the woke left. The tech billionaire nonetheless urged
It's
people
now
to have hope
zero days.
and continue fighting to right the ship. He basically said it's a zombie apocalypse, a philosophy that would ordinarily be quite niche, and ideologically constrained
Niche.
so the fallout area will be limited,
That's
was
a niche.
effectively given an information weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. Oh yeah, I got another video for you guys later tonight where I'm going to roast some Gen Z ignorance. But I'm not ragging on all of Gen Z. I'm saying it's a Gen Z person. I actually think Gen Z is a bit more based than millennials. Millennials are messed up.
Gen Z is. It is. Gen Z is absolutely fucking base. Most likely because when you look at all the statistics, Gen Z is way further left than their other generations. Millennials are, in second place after them, but then it just fucking takes that slant off. But we're the two generations, high fives to the Gen Zers from the millennials and back and forth. We're the two generations that are bucking the trend right now. We're not becoming more centrist or more conservative as we become older. In fact, with everything going on, I feel more people are being radicalized more than ever. You don't even really need, leftists to be propagating a whole bunch of fucking... By the way, let me tell you about things like class consciousness and the exploitation of labor. And maybe I could get you to read a bit of Kropotkin. Have you heard of the conquest of bread? You don't even need that as much as just people being like, what the fuck is going on in the world? And then all of a sudden someone can be like, oh, I have answers. I can explain it. It's a long story. There's a lot of systems at play, but they've been very well analyzed at this point. And if you want to actually go into the literature, you can get all the answers you seek. We can explain a lot of these phenomenons and how many connections there are between a lot of different groups in power, corporations, politicians, lobbyists, and the whole thing is powered by good old-fashioned capitalism. And yeah, a lot of these groups, including the military-industrial complex, sometimes collaborate and or collude with each other and or lobby one another in order to influence policy and stuff like that. And then they become so entrenched even in the things that you might think are nice, the very things that you think are going to save us. NGOs. Don't NGOs feel warm and fuzzy? This is a non-profit organization and it's a non-governmental organization. And what they're going to do is pacify you. They're going to pacify you. A lot of them, not all of them, by the way, there are definitely fucking very worthy NGOs that do important work. I'm not saying all of them by broad brush, but there's a lot of them that do. There's a lot of them that will take energy away from activism, from perhaps direct action, from protest. Because at the end of the day, it's like, well, I feel good now, though. The same effect can happen by doing the Je suis Paris thing, right? I don't really have to do much beyond change my avatar until everyone else stops doing it. And when they stop doing it, I'll do it too. Because then I don't want to be the last one with the Je suis Paris in my avatar. So I'll change that.
Take a look at this from Axios. On TikTok, views of pro-Palestine posts far surpass views of pro-Israel posts. Now, let's just approach this minimally. Meaning,
minimalism.
the people are just saying Palestine needs support or Israel needs support. On TikTok, they said 87,000 posts for Palestine and 9,000 for Israel. That's like 9-1.
Gen Zers, keep going. Y'all are so based. I've been seeing your TikToks. Y'all are fucking hitting so many amazing points and notes. Keep putting information out there. There's a big problem. This was something that was not fully calculated, I suppose, by a lot of, those in power. I'm talking about the billionaire class, by the way. I'm not talking about any kind of conspiracy theory. I'm talking about very, very rich people. Media is mainstream media, for example. It is quite customized. You might find sometimes your consent is a little manufactured when you're watching mainstream media. Whereas when you have independent media, independent media, most likely, especially if it's publicly funded and they don't have to be beholden to, say, investors or stuff like that, they're able to say whatever the fuck they want. Now, to a fault, sometimes, obviously, especially if you have, people who are just on streams for fucking 4 hours a day running their mouth, they're probably going to not be 100% factual. So again, please always do your own fact checking, recognize streamers are entertainers and they fuck up too, that kind of shit. But here's the thing. some people have gained the power, and this is in both directions, by the way. In terms of the right wing, they dominate YouTube. You know, Tim Pool's fucking live streamer numbers dominate Hassan's. Hassan's the closest thing you get to like another fucking equivalent in the opposite direction. But either way, there's a lot of independent media that has grown, and that independent media through social media has massive reaches in some cases, huge reach, and that huge reach, by the way, that's really important. Like, look what you see. I can't take you seriously, the Serfs TV. I'm trying to be astute here. All right, I'm trying to make an important point, and y'all, it does look festive though. It does look like a celebration of dicks, which is absolutely sensational, by the way. Everyone should enjoy it.
When Elon Musk said the woke mind virus of Twitter, of San Francisco, was spreading through Twitter, he's right. And now you have TikTok, which is backed by China and is going to propagate pro-Chinese ideas. We recently learned that Chinese tech companies removed Israel from their map. Many people responded by saying, Palestine's not on the map. Like, in what way? Gaza and the West Bank are. And it says Israel because Israel is.
Okay, first off, does he know that China and Israel are actually very, very strong allies? I just want to put that out there before, you know, any of the fucking, you know, the pro Xi Jinping crowd drops in here and being like, hey, by the way, blah, blah, blah. Top Chinese tech companies, Alibaba and Baidu, have dropped Israel's official name from the digital maps available online. The Moon covers as the Chinese internet is getting inundated. Yeah, but where's the source? Okay, Business Insider. I'll trust Business Insider. Israel's name is conspicuously absent from the maps on the Chinese internet, report says. Israel's name is conspicuously absent from maps on the Chinese internet, according to the Wall Street Journal. Okay, all right. I will believe it. Internet Users China Observer, the Chinese tech companies Alibaba and Baidu removed the name Israel from their online maps despite, well, by the way, they keep saying Chinese, but people do need to understand that China is still capitalist, right? It's they call themselves capitalist or socialism with Chinese characteristics, but it is still a capitalist state that is producing more billionaires quicker than any other country in the world. Like, they are kicking ass at the capitalism. Their economy is growing at a much faster pace than the United States. They are going to surpass eventually the United States in economic performance. It's state capitalist, and there are some state capitalist ventures, and there are also obviously private companies, and those private companies can amass vast amounts of wealth, and when that happens, you will see what happens in terms of them getting clamped down. There was an entire controversy involving the creator of Alibaba and this very issue. So just so everyone is completely aware, no, China is not communist, China is not socialist, it is absolutely state capitalist. I'm surprised those two countries, those two massive companies, those two tech platforms would be so brazen, though. That by the way, here's where the whole fucking Alex Jones of the beanie shows itself, is that at the end of the day, that has absolutely no evidence directly towards TikTok intentionally promoting pro-Palestine messaging. Like, here's the theory with absolutely nothing to back it, simply based on the fact that there are more posts here saying stand with Palestine than there is stand with Israel. I'm going to posit this one as to why Gen Zers, who are, again, the primary market and the primary producers of TikTok content, why that's happening. Because they have eyeballs. That's why. Because they have eyes. They're seeing everything in real time in a way that a lot of other conflicts in history, especially for my generation, we had to see a lot of fucking grainy ass footage if you were watching it on the internet, if anything, but for the most part you would be watching footage on television, and that CNN style reporting of the invasion of Iraq was very, very, very fucking pro-US interests, and that, yes, this is defeating terrorism. Like, people just collectively bought into a mass delusion. And that, like, you have to realize that mass delusion was completely acceptable to sit back and be like, yeah, it's okay to invade a sovereign nation and bomb it to the ground and kill tons of civilians in the process. And it's like, well, wait, what? And you go over there and commit war crimes? Aren't we supposed to, like, prevent this kind of stuff? I thought we decided, as a unity of nations, if you will, that we were not going to do things like this, especially without just cause. This is a country that hasn't directly attacked the United States. Iraq has not dropped bombs on the U.S. Iraq did not fly the planes into the Twin Towers. Those were mainly Saudi nationals. They were Saudi nationals, as well as, I believe, a couple people from Pakistan. And Osama bin Laden ended up getting found and assassinated in Pakistan, not in Afghanistan, not in Iraq. It's pretty wild that, like, it was just people wouldn't even question it. Like, you know, you could be talking to someone and being like, yeah, I'm firmly against the war, and then being like, why? What? Are you okay with terrorism? Did you think 9/11 was good? Are you pro 9/11, bro? You know, shit like that. And it's like, but you see what you're doing. This isn't making the world safer, right? You're destabilizing entire regions, which are going to lead to violent insurgent groups being newly formed within those regions, and those violent insurgent groups are going to obviously target the West as an enemy as a result of what is being done, and a lot of individuals in their own homeland who see their houses getting bombed. Like, what a surprise! What a surprise that they have animosity.
You can't just call it Palestine when there is a government in power called Israel. You get my point. If you search Google for Palestine, it will bring you to the West Bank and Gaza. But I digress. It's ridiculous arguments. The point is, China appears to be, at the governmental level, taking a more left approach.
That was more true for Afghanistan. By the time of Iraq, the 9/11 impetus was kind of faded. Yeah, I'd say this because I lived through it too. I'm assuming you're probably close to my age, someone who actually, like, you know, was a little bit more politically active around that period when it was going place. It's true that the original concept of simply saying that, you know, this was because of 9/11 was obviously not itself going to be enough for them to try and have whatever plausible deniability they eventually gave themselves. There was a very strong push by, you know, multiple figures in the administration, Colin Powell going to the UN, showing the yellow cake uranium, constantly mentioning weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. That was combined, though, and this is really important, that was combined with the general atmosphere of hyper-Islamophobia. And that hyper-Islamophobia is pushed on by a lot of the new atheist movement style rhetoric, where it's just like, you know, Islam is an inherently violent religion. It is the religion of conquest. It is a religion of slaughter and murder. And because of that, every single person could become radicalized simply by reading the Quran. And those who read the Quran may be, you know, it's not them themselves who are doing this violence. It's certainly 100% religion. That kind of shit was playing directly into that. And they did try to loosely connect the two multiple times. So there was a handful of times when it was like, you know, there's an association, you know, between Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations. You know, they may have been working together. You know, this is the same kind of terrorism. I mean, he declared a war on terror. Like Bush was basically doing just this massive blanket statement where it's just like, you're with us or you're against us. You're with us or the axis of evil. And if you're the axis of evil, you are fundamentally, morally, acceptably, you know, a bad person and you know, worthy of whatever fucking conquest comes next. Yeah, mission accomplished.
Approach to this, I should say leftist in view of pro-Palestine, by
yes, I am
removing the word Israel from the map, effectively saying it's a disputed region with no authority. On TikTok, this is what you get. Now, you could argue a couple things. One, young people are generally more pro-Palestine. That's why you see this. I disagree. I think...
Why use logic? You know, why use the fact that a younger generation, Gen Z, when polled, shows to be overwhelmingly more progressive on just universally all issues across the board, from being pro-LGBTQ plus rights to being completely acceptable of marginalized communities to standing up against racial oppression. That's kind of where Gen Z's at. And I know in large part you might be saying, well, that's because of the woke mind virus. As you see, the numbers speak for themselves. This is an intentional campaign by China to influence our politics and teach us radical ideas like racism's bad. They're trying to teach you that. Trying to tell us we have to be guilty if we're white. I don't want to be guilty. I don't want to experience white guilt. That's all they're telling us, that babies are racist, that time is racist. You know, that's apparently what they're teaching in schools. CRT, have you heard of these things? And it's like, maybe, okay, something could be said about the messaging. Maybe it was the messaging, and maybe the fact that it came from a lot of liberal institutions, you know, and then the fact that it was implemented in, I'm not going to deny that there are programs, and I think they are very worthy programs in a workplace to be able to try and explain things like, hey, by the way, in the workplace, you shouldn't sexually harass the women who work here simply because you're attracted to them, because they may not be attracted to you, and everyone has to work in the same environment, and having to sit there every day being like, oh, nice tits, might just be really fucking uncomfortable. So hey, yeah, that's bad. Don't do that. Don't do that thing, right? And then they go a little further. And then there's another course where it's like, hey, by the way, just want to say that, you know, saying a whole bunch of racist jokes at the workplace and then trying to defend that racist joke all the time by saying, oh, by the way, I make fun of everybody. Okay. I just want to tell you that I love black people. I'm just, the N-word makes it funnier. Okay. Like the punchline would land as hard if I didn't use the N-word. So that's why it's not that I'm not racist. That could make a shitty work environment for other people as well. So I don't think there's anything wrong with these kind of things. For younger generations who are absorbing a lot of their information, especially online, this information is out there, okay? You can choose to believe and live in a world of fairy tales where everything is benevolent, where everything that, you know, the United States and Israel do is in the best interest of securing peace and democracy around the world, or you can do research on the topic and start to learn about these things. The same thing applies to everything. It's like why I keep, you know, memeing that they're stuck into 3 states of matter when it comes to the issue on sex. Trans people, cis people, they're the ones saying right now cis is a slur because they think trans is a slur, because they think that's a slur. They just imply directly that, oh, well, cis is a slur too. I'm not a sissy. You're the sissy.
I think it's generally true, but I'll tell you this. We got banned. Timcast IRL got banned from TikTok for no reason. None. There are many people who post way more egregious stuff than we do. We're fairly moderate, middle of the road, and they banned us. They didn't explain why. They just turned the account off. I think we may be back on TikTok. I think the way TikTok works, and I really don't care,
you got
is that
banned
when
on
they ban your
TikTok?
account, you just make a new one. And I actually think that's the better way to do it. The idea that you as a human being are permanently banned is stupid. And you know, Ian Crossland talks about.
You shouldn't say this part out loud. Don't give the game away publicly on a video that's going to be seen by hundreds of thousands. If you want to do that, which is ban evasion, you're describing ban evasion, which they have very clear terms of services against, by the way. Just rebrand and then, you know, don't say it in a video. Don't be like, well, I was just banned off TikTok and I was just thinking to myself, yeah, there's no such thing as getting banned on any social media platform because you just make a new account. So I'm just gonna make a new account. I'm gonna call it, I don't know, Timcast2. See what they do. You're just gonna get fucking roasted, right? You're gonna speed run this shit, motherfucker.
About this, saying that you build them an account, you break the rules, the account is gone, but you as a person can create a new account. And then if you break the rules again, the account is gone. And that's the way it should be. You start over, you make a new account. They say, and this is October 16th, the 23rd. It was actually, they say, now I don't know what they're trying to say here. Stand with Palestine at 123,000 posts, but only 11 million views. And Stand with Israel at 8,000 and 12 million views. Fascinating. At this time, it is presumed that many people are concerned over what Hamas had done. So how is it that the views have skyrocketed for Stand with Palestine? That is the point, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's a different theory. A Tim Pool theory. A lot of people were already educated on the subject. A lot of people knew about the subject. A lot of people had been alive to witness what was happening in previous bombing campaigns where a lot of civilians were killed, where civilian targets were targeted, where hospitals, schools, bombs were dropped upon, how COVID testing center was just fucking, you know, wiped off the map, how an Al Jazeera journalist center was also destroyed under the auspices that it was because it was a Hamas headquarters, of which that didn't turn out to be true. There's been multiple accounts of things of which the IDF releases statements on that turn out to be completely falsifiable, such as the killing of journalists done by the IDF, which again is not supposed to be allowed. But yeah, people have been experiencing this for a very long time. I know there's a rumor going around that there was a huge contingent of people who were celebrating the slaughter of Israeli civilians on October 7th. I saw people doing that in extremist corners of the internet, okay? In deeply anti-Semitic corners of the internet, because again, anti-Semites usually associate Israel with all Jewish people, as well as, yes, radical, you can say extremist corners of people who claim to be, you know, communists and stuff like that, you know, saying that like every single life taken is an acceptable fucking casualty because of the occupation of Palestine. And, you know, when it comes to babies or children, I'm not saying that they were beheaded, but I'm saying that there were people who died that day. So obviously there's a lot of people who on that day were upset, but I'll tell you why the numbers are what they are, because myself included, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, oh no. This was one of the biggest reasons that I was really, really also fucking angry at people online who were just like fucking furious posting while everything was going down, because you know what's going to happen next, right? Like, what has Israel done in the past in retaliation to attacks by Hamas? And what is the proportionality? Because you've seen when, say, 69 rockets are shot in 2014 by Hamas into Israeli territory. I believe there was 14 Israelis killed in that attack. What was the response? What happened afterwards? What was the campaign that took place until there is obviously fucking global moral outrage on this kind of stuff? And when you witness it, like I could see what was about to happen. You know, it's not even a prediction thing. Any single person who's been observing this conflict for a while is going to come to that conclusion, and immediately just see like, holy fuck, we are going to see immense suffering of Palestinians in Gaza right after this. That is what is going to come next. And it came so fast. It was so quick until the announcement that they are cutting off an already suffering population from all food, from all water, from all fuel, from all medical supplies. Their strategy right out of the gates is literally going to be starving a population of half children. 1.1 million children in the Gaza Strip. That was how it fucking started. And, you know, everything that's come afterwards, which obviously is just beyond human imagination right now in terms of horror, is bringing a lot of people to that conclusion that, holy shit, this is bad. This is bad. I mean, it's one thing to say Israel has the right to defend itself. It's another to be militarily supporting this ethnic cleansing taking place right before our eyes that we all see in real time. Because again, we have so much access to technology now. It's cheaper than ever to own a device that's capable of filming war crimes, upload those war crimes via the internet, and then the rest of the world will see them. And because of that, yeah, it's no surprise to me that a lot of young people, Gen Z, who already skew very far left in terms of a lot of their progressive ideas and values and all that kind of stuff, a lot of them watching this, seeing this, are saying free Palestine. That's like that part is not at all a conspiracy. That's not surprising.
Despite
again, that's just a theory. Just a theory. I can't know for sure.
there being more posts for Palestine, the views were substantially less. And then it would appear TikTok as a corporation intervened and boosted those views. And now you get it. Why is it that we have 16-year-olds in high school marching through the hallways chanting from the river to the sea? Well, let's talk about it. First, Israel should not have bombed a refugee camp, even if it's to target a commander. Don't care. The analogy I made early in the morning.
Cuando para mucho, sí, yo paro por mucho tiempo.
That's like the guy who attacked your family is hiding in a crowd of civilians, so you start indiscriminately firing on the civilians. Yet you're going to prison if you do that. And I get it's war, and that was the point I was making, that you can justify whatever you want in war, but the winners are going to win. Like the winners are going to control the narrative, and you can't punish the people who have seized the power. My point is, it is not to just outright defend Israel, because Israel deserves criticism, absolutely. However, what does from the river to the sea mean? And I think there's a bunch of ways you can break it down. The first question would be, if the barriers around Gaza were removed and Israel told all of the people of Gaza they can freely move about all of Israel, what would happen? No question. Mass murder. There would be fights. There would be chaos. There would be shootings everywhere. Gazans would go back to territories they claim as their ancestral homelands, and they would start killing people. Or I should say, they would start conflicts. I think what we saw from Hamas exemplifies exactly what would happen. I do not believe Israelis would go into Gaza and start attacking Palestinians. That doesn't make sense. So, from the river to the sea.
That doesn't make any sense. What are they doing right now? What's going on right now? What actually goes on perpetually, by the way, in terms of like, have they been invading mosques? Have they been going into refugee camps? Have they been beating people in the streets? Have they been keeping people in a constant state of impoverishment in order for them to live in that way and keep them in an open air prison? Have they been doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
That's the River Jordan to the Mediterranean. They're saying it should be, Palestine will be free. So we got to break down first what they mean by that.
Yeah, beating the pallbearers
Palestine
of the
will be
journalists
free.
they
They're
murdered.
saying, so what, all of the people of the West Bank and Gaza
Couldn't even have a funeral. Couldn't even fucking, can't even mourn. Taking mourning away from people. Taking the act of remembering loved ones away from them.
from the river to the sea will be able to freely move about the territory? Okay. we'll see conflict. I mean, this started with war. You had several wars, and it would likely be war again, especially if the
I feel so bad for people whose primary source is this. You know, like this is going to be like, so yeah, I didn't know a lot about the conflict. I was I decided to, you know, pop on the old Timcast, and I got some ideas and theories. Basically, you know, Palestinians are kind of like subhuman monsters who will kill anything in sight, so like they can never truly be free. They can't do that. The opposite is completely true about Israel. Like Israel would never attack Gaza. That doesn't make any sense. And so you know, because of this dynamic that plays itself out, you know, deeply anti-Semitic statements are being made by anyone who's basically supporting Palestine. And I will draw a distinction between them supporting Palestine and Hamas, but I will say every single person at the protesters, like all of those protests, they're all supporting Hamas. I'm going to say that. So that's what I learned. It was another good day.
argument is that settlers are not civilians and they're illegally occupying the land. That would then go to say that when these children are chanting from the river to the sea, they're saying the Jewish people who live there, and some for generations, should be removed. What do you do with them? You know what would happen? I got to tell you.
What have they been doing with them?
Let's just say accommodating view would be all of the Jews of Israel would be put in concentration camps. If you're calling Gaza an open air prison or concentration camp, that's what they would do to the Jewish citizens that the Israeli citizens. And I say Jewish because there are Arab Israelis, and the argument from the left is that they're okay.
There are Christians in Gaza.
The Jewish people. Okay, so it's the government and it's the people who are there. They're illegal settlers. There's no other explanation for what they could mean by this. They can try to the light approach and be like, we're just saying equal rights for all, you know, Palestinian and Arabic people in the region or whatever.
By the way, he's basically just propagating right now that like Palestinians, especially Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, they are inherently, you know, bloodthirsty, and given the opportunity, every single one of them is basically a Hamas fighter in waiting. That's it. You know, it's
maybe if Hamas stopped firing rockets, sure, whatever. Why are high school students chanting?
Oh no, Tim said as of like when this, you know, when the bombing campaign began, Tim was initially talking about it because everyone just keeps saying, why won't you talk about Israel Palestine? Why won't you talk about Israel Palestine? And like I'm just like I don't know a lot about it. I don't know enough about to talk about it, kind of thing. And you know, in terms of like, hey, if you don't know anything about a situation, don't speak on it. I mean, sure, that could be applicable to a point where if you are covering news for a living, right, if that's your job, even if it's an opinion piece for entertainment purposes, you should probably do some research on the subject so that you can speak about it and not keep your audience in silence. But that switched because I guess he's had a couple guests on, you know, he's had a couple people to talk to him about this, and they've pretty much reiterated the stance that Gaza, Palestinians living in Gaza, if given freedom, if you're given their land back, right, if given autonomy, if given the ability to no longer live under a complete supervised distribution of food, fuel, water, and medical supplies, of which so much of their food and medical supplies are dependent entirely on aid foundations, and apparently 40% of essential medical supplies are not even available in Gaza in the best of times, right, when there isn't bombing campaigns going on. So if that ends, then naturally they're going to put every single person in Israel in a concentration camp. That's what Tim Pool is saying.
It's because of TikTok, because of the algorithms that are being pushed.
Because of TikTok.
Now, I want to show you this video. And so it began.
Yeah, we've already watched this video. I want to get to... Where's the woke mind virus? Teach me about the woke... Oh, do you not even play the clip? I wanted to see...
Violence and got away with it. Conservatives got banned for saying learn to code because they kept bending the knee to their local politicians. The pressure they felt... I'll make it really simple for you.
Sorry, conservatives got banned for saying learn to code? What are you talking about?
Conservatives got banned for saying learn to code.
What? I don't know if I even have to Google this one.
Because they kept bending the knee to their local politicians. The pressure they felt... I'll make it really simple for you. Democrat politician goes to Twitter and says, hey, we represent California and San Francisco, and we're going to raise your taxes unless you do what we want. And they go, done. This is why Washington, D.C. exists. There was fear that if Congress and the Capitol were in a single state, that state would have massive influence over the federal government.
The history of Gaza is a new Adam Conover episode. I am going to consume Consume that. Oh yeah, I still haven't watched this one either. We don't really have time. I'm just wondering. Oh yeah, okay. I want to see him talk about this.
The Joe Rogan
Contention.
What was it
Fucking-
ultimately that
the
led
weed
you
smoke
to
just
make
blowing
the
in his
decision to
face.
do it?
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. That it was just having a bad impact.
There was too many mean tweets, and I wasn't the most popular person on the website. Now I'm the most popular person on the website, and Nazis are all verified, and everything's better, and we ended the woke mind virus, even though use of the N-word skyrocketed by 500% within the first day of me taking over the website. Yeah, it's a cesspool now of just hatred, bile, and fucking scum villainy of the highest order. But yeah, okay.
And I think part of it is that it's where it was located, which is downtown San Francisco. And while I think San Francisco is a beautiful city, and which
I don't know who Joe Rogan is supposed to be.
it really fight hard to kind of right the ship of San Francisco. If you've walked around downtown San Francisco, right near the ex-FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse. I mean, it's rough. Have you been in that area?
Not lately. No,
Yeah.
I've heard.
It's crazy.
I've heard it's crazy. I've heard you really can't believe it until you actually go there.
You can't believe it until you go there. So now you have to say, well, what philosophy?
So what is creating poverty? What is creating homelessness? What is exacerbating that? It's the woke mind virus. Yep, it's the woke mind virus. It's representation in movies. That's what's doing it. Every single time you see a woman as a Jedi, or a black guy as a stormtrooper, but a prominent one, as lead in the film, that's the woke mind virus infecting all of us. And we don't notice that's how insidious it is. We just sit there being like, ooh, lights. Those lights are swords, and they're swinging the light swords at the other sword. And look at that, zap, zap. But you don't know that that's actually the woke mind virus infecting you at that time.
led to that outcome. And that philosophy was being piped to Earth. So, a philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so that sort of the fallout area would be limited, was effectively given information.
Soul Life says Twitter, not X, made homelessness. It's true though. It's true. Again, that's the theory here that Tim Pool just bought. Hook lines. He heard zombie apocalypse, and so he just loved that part. Have you heard about what he said about San Francisco? It's a zombie apocalypse. Literal zombies. Yeah, that's what they become. Yeah, after a little bit of time.
Clean up your room.
But definitely Twitter and wokeness are what created poverty. That's accurate.
A weapon.
Well, yeah, so there's a reason why a billionaire, or the richest man in the world, I mean, let's be clear. Second richest man in the world, but he goes back and forth when he's not destroying a lot of his own personal value by acting like a fucking white supremacist online. But yeah, there's a reason why he would want to spread that kind of false consciousness, right? Why he would want a lot of people to believe the biggest fucking enemy in your lives, is not your oppression that comes at the hands of a capitalist system in which your bosses are exploiting you. None of that. And don't take it from a person who refuses to let their workers unionize or has incredibly racist factories and has been sued for that multiple times, or actually can sometimes work people to their death or force the workers to have to go back to work under, COVID measures when the workers don't want to have to go back to work because there's this novel virus that they're worried could potentially make them very sick, especially if they're immunocompromised. Any of that. Don't think about that. Think about the woke mind virus. It's really important. It's important all of you know about the woke mind virus and how it's destroying society. Have you seen Disney stock? Have you seen how much Disney is failing right now? Yeah, that's only explainable because of the woke mind virus, because, they're putting trans flags in some superhero movies and they've got prominent black characters now and stuff like that. And one of the characters is even gay and had a gay kiss. That right there is what's destroying them, because that's wokeness. So that's why they're all going homeless.
Information technology weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome.
Which, by the way, if you go to youtube.com/@mindexplosions, you can see a video that I made to briefly explain in detail what free speech is, how free speech works, what are the laws surrounding free speech, and why exactly Elon Musk loves to pretend to be free speech space Karen, but at the same time only cares about which speech he prefers the most to be the freest. That is exactly what he's doing, and you can see it in the form of everything from the far right not facing the same kind of consequences that other people face, the censoring of left-wing comedians like Juniper, who, you know, make the same jokes that he has not even made as a joke, that he's just straight up made, you know, hi pedo guy, that kind of shit. You can see that he wants the speech that he prefers to be the freest, and a lot of that right now seems to be centered and focused highly on white supremacy, because as he's gone more and more extreme, this feedback loop for the man who literally lives inside the building, fucking, you know, like a fetus, that feedback loop has been poisoning his mind, and he's seen like, whoa, all the liberals don't like me anymore, they're all saying that I'm a Nazi, what the fuck, who likes me? Ian Miles Chong, okay, cool. End wokeness, okay, cool. These are my people.
Well, that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
And it's not just propagating the mind virus, but suppressing any opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, in order for the
These are grown adults. One of them is the fucking richest man in the world. The other has the world's most popular podcast. They're having a real conversation. You just said that sentence out loud. And that's because of the woke mind virus. That's what you're saying, man. Is that like the woke mind virus? It's propagated in such a way that like it's insidious and it's causing homelessness. Like it actually causes people to be homeless if they're for CRT. That's what's happening here.
virus to propagate it must
We're so
suppress
doomed.
viewpoint.
Because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
This is both making me laugh and also fucking blackpilling me so fast.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you've felt the virus. You know? Yeah. People have tried to cancel you so many times.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
You felt the virus, haven't you? You felt it. An awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're melodramatic at all. I
if we survive, and I'm an optimist, always have been. I contend we will, all right? I defend that we will be able to defeat the fascies and the baddies. I still, even as bad as things get, you know, I'm still pulling for humanity. I think years later, it's going to be just, it's going to be baffling to try and explain this, you know, to kids. To try and be like, yeah, so while there were all these problems in the world that were easily identifiable and they were being exacerbated entirely in part due to the fact that wealth concentration was going to such a small percentage of the population, and a lot of the systems that we had in place continued to exacerbate the very things that were accelerating things like climate change. We knew all of it. We had very, very clear indications. Scientists were incredibly clear about it, as well as a lot of people, and eventually reached to the point where politicians were kind of self-aware about some parts of it, but they never ever wanted to go after daddy capitalism, because at the end of the day, that was really feeding their wonderful lifestyles that they had for a time. They were distracting us. They were trying to say that the biggest threat to civilization was a woke mind virus. A what? A woke mind virus. That there was a virus of wokeness that was infecting people and causing homelessness. How, like, what do you mean by woke? Like as in people who were like aware of the oppression of others, and people who became aware and to the plight of other people and other groups and marginalized communities. As they became aware of that, they would become woke, and then they would cancel culture you and 1984 you, and then become homeless. Where does how did they become homeless? That's the part. Yeah, they never explained the science behind the woke mind virus. We didn't get a lot of details. It was very mysterious, you know, and it was just basically things you don't like. You got to replace thing you don't like with the woke mind virus. Be like, yeah, this is a thing I don't like. It's woke. It's like, oh, okay. And this is infecting society and causing homelessness.
think I mean, I don't want to be melodramatic, but it's almost like a death cult.
It's a death cult. No, that is exactly right.
You are both part of a death cult.
It's essentially the extinctionists.
Yes.
Like, it's in the limit. It is that
fucking learning about someone else having a hard life, or that racism bad. It's the extinctionists. That's the extinction of the human race. I tell you, don't call out fucking apartheid Clyde.
propagating the extinction of humanity and civilization. And there's some people who are like most of the time it's implicit. They don't but sometimes it's explicit. Like there was a guy on the front page of the New York Times who literally has the thing called the Extinctionist Movement, and he was quoted on the front page of the New York Times as saying, "There are 8 billion people in the world, but it would be better if there were none." And I'm like, well, buddy, you can start with yourself.
Yeah. Does he have friends? That's what always fascinates me.
Well,
Here he is.
that guy.
He looks like he's not long for this earth.
I mean, he's not
Voluntary
young.
Sorry, what was the part about this dude? Is he the woke mind virus? Is he fucking patient zero? Was he the first one to receive it? And now that this is the effects, it's like, well, once you receive the woke mind virus, you become so woke that you just want to end humanity. It's this the eventuality of it all.
Doing extinction movement. That's hilarious. I'd like to party with that dude. I would
Okay.
just like to like.
That's
yeah.
that's an explicit version of the death cult.
Yeah, maybe
the extinctionist
live long
cult.
and die out.
It's I mean it's not. The extinction is a word he uses.
Yes.
No, I mean it's not. It's literally a self-description.
Do they cover
that
him
death cult
glowingly?
was in charge of social media.
Yeah.
And still largely is at Google and Facebook, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm in.
Well, I've learned some things. Absolute fucking gibberish. You know, fucking drooling on yourself style gibberish from Joe Rogan and Elon Musk here. Fucking going off about woke mind viruses making people homeless. Yeah. Get woke. Get woke, kids. Get fucking woke. Because, you know, fascists are trying to tell you that none of this shit is real. That your real problems. I mean, again, the whole thing is a distraction. The whole thing is to distract you. It's to spread false consciousness. It's to keep everyone thinking the real problems in the world aren't the actual things causing the problems in the world. Mass alienation is not as a result of capitalism. It is a result of a woke mind virus. It is a result of immigrants trying to replace both Democrats or Western society. All this kind of stuff. I mean, all of it is to reinforce the systems that are already in place. And as people identify those systems and how they affect people, and they write about it, and they start entire fields of study, say things like, I don't know, sociology, entire fields, right? And look at Du Bois and all of his work in that field and how that field has expanded and grown so much since then to identify how a lot of these systems of structures and power, how they affect us. Like, then that's garbage. That's the woke mind virus. Yes. Critical race theory, that's the woke mind virus. Yeah, and you got to watch out because it's going to get you. It's gonna hurt you. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This show is produced by amazing people like you, and if you want to help us out, please consider donating over at patreon.com/theserfs. The show is made possible thanks to Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Lamidia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Pappy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Sir Nickus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Demo, Tech Tink, Trevbot EXE, Words Greenwood, and not to mention all of the amazing and fabulous people you now see before you.